Hi, I'm Siyanda Sibiya. I'm a mortician and I'll be answering questions from social media. Have you ever experienced someone come back to life? What did you do in such a situation? I've never experienced it personally. I've never experienced it. It's something that you do think about when you're in the mortuary, but I've never experienced it. We do hear stories, but that's all I think it is. It's just stories. Do you believe in ghosts or the afterlife? I do believe in the afterlife. I do believe that sometimes spirits get left behind. However, being in this line of work, as I said, you become numb to certain things. You know, for the first time when you walk into a mortuary and someone drops something, you'll be like, "What's that?" But you come to get used to it. Have you ever found the body of someone who had an accident before their last breath? What do you do in that case?
So you see the accident isn't...
Yeah. Okay. So there are cases where that happens, but it's normally just number one. But there are cases where it's number two, but it's just a matter of just cleaning the body up. We wash the body up. How do you keep the skin and face looking as natural as possible? So funny enough, this is done through makeup. We do have ladies that do makeup on the bodies, especially the women. The family normally brings through the makeup simply because the deceased will have their own skin tone and they will need to have a foundation that matches their skin tone. So yeah, we do spruce it up and make it look a bit lively in certain instances, but some families just opt for the natural look simply because if a person passes on a Tuesday and they're being buried on a Saturday, there's not much change in the way that they look. Yeah, it will just be a normal sprucing up. But in cases where the body was kept in the mortuary for a longer period of time, then there is a definite need for the makeup. So what happens to gold teeth and contact lenses? Gold teeth and contact lenses, we don't normally remove those. Those are fine. What we do normally remove in the case of a cremation is the hip replacements and the pacemaker because they damage the furnace at the crematorium. Are there any restrictions on whether female bodies are washed only by women or vice versa? There is no restrictions because mostly the people that work at the mortuary are mostly guys, but there is no restrictions on that. Is it possible for someone to watch while a mortician is working on a body? Yes, it is, but we normally advise against that simply because when we're working on a body, sometimes the body is a bit stiff, so it will require a bit of manpower, a bit of force to move things around. So in a case where a family member's watching, it will seem as if we are hurting the loved one. But have you ever worked on a body of someone you know? No, I have not, and I'm not planning on doing so. Is it possible to have a body smile? Yes, it is possible. When the guys work on the body in the mortuary, they are able to work their magic and make the face more inviting to leave a better lasting memory of the last face that you see. Why do we only see the top half of the body when in the casket? So it all depends on what the family wants and the type of casket or coffin that it's used. Normally it's open halfway because that's generally what people want to see. They just want to see the torso and the upper part of the body and the face. But in some instances, the family would want the whole coffin, the whole casket to be open. How do you manage to put the body in its position in the coffin? So it takes a bit of manpower. It takes about 2 people to do it. But in cases where we have an oversized deceased, more hands would be required. But it's fairly a simple task. It's just taking the deceased and putting them inside the casket or the coffin. So when they store the body, remember they store it in this position there. So when it stiffens in this position. So it's just a matter of, yeah. When you die, if you don't tense up. Yeah, you lose.
By the time it reaches you,
It's still loose, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then in cases where it's coming from, say, government mortuary, when it stays in the mortuary it needs to stay over about 2 weeks or so. in order for it to like be properly stiff, because it's like -5 degrees inside. So when by the time it gets to us, because they'll take it out, work on it, or do whatever, by the time it gets to us, it's already a bit loose. Yeah. What is the reason for the mortuary to ask the family of the deceased to watch the body? In certain instances, it's a cultural thing. We would normally do a cleanup of the body, make it clean and presentable. But with African families, it's a cultural thing where they need to come and do the final wash and the dressing also before the body is put into the coffin. But then with other races, they don't normally care for that, so we have to do the washing. They bring the clothes, we do the dressing and coffin the body. Is it possible to bury someone horizontally or sitting? There are cases of where bodies are buried sitting, but I've never seen a case where someone needs to be buried horizontally or vertically, simply because how do you even dig that hole or that grave? What is the general smell of a body? So due to these preservation techniques, the way we store the body, there's not much of a smell, but there is sort of a slight smell of decomposure, but it's very, very light, and it's not as striking as, say, that of a dead animal or something like that. But it is there, but it's not a problem. It's not much of a problem. What is used to fill the empty spaces where organs had been removed? So in this instance, we don't normally remove body organs. Organs are normally removed on bodies that have been donated to science, donated for science purposes. However, we don't generally remove any body organs. Is it true that some major organs get removed and reused for pharmaceutical purposes? And which organs are those? For the bodies that are donated to science, they are used by medical students who are going to be training for being a surgeon and stuff like that. So they need to work on an actual body before they worked on an actual live body. So nothing to my knowledge is reused for pharmaceutical purposes. It's only for the purpose of research done by the medical school. Is it possible to find a body with blood that is still warm? Yeah, it's very possible, simply because most of the time we do home removals where the deceased passed on at home. So once we get the call, when we get there, usually the blood is still a bit warm. It takes about a couple of hours for it to get cold, so by the time we get there, the body is still a bit warm. When you get a body that no longer has certain body parts, maybe from an accident, do you make up for the part or bury them like that? It depends on what the family wants. If there is a case like that and they want to opt for an open casket funeral, we will try to make it seem like, maybe if the arm was removed, we will try and make it seem like the arm is still there, or stuff like that. But yeah, we do make use of clay and some plastic to make it seem like there is some body volume there. Does your job affect your mental and emotional state? How do you handle that? I'd say it does, because it's a job at the end of the day. It does get stressful. It does get stressful at times. However, when you are in this line of work and you are exposed to seeing the deceased body, you're exposed to seeing people coming from accidents, you sort of become numb to it. It becomes the norm to you. So you're not really surprised, or you don't really have any bad dreams sort of from stuff like that. So I guess it comes with the job to say that you become numb to it. How do people generally react when they find out you are a mortician? It's normally jokes that come through. It's normally banter that comes through, but some people are shocked, like you. But it's just that. What's the scariest or most unusual thing you've had happen whilst working in the mortuary? I don't have any. I think it was the first time when I walked into a mortuary, and I think the second time was during the peak stages of COVID, when mortuaries were full, and it was quite a stressful time seeing so many dead bodies. So yeah, it's just those 2 times. So what is the process from the time you receive a deceased person to the time they get buried? So there's a couple of steps that take place. So in an instance of a home removal or a home collection, if I can put it like that, where the family calls us in, the deceased passed away, we come, we collect the deceased, we take them to our mortuary facility. And then we book an appointment with the family, either to go to them or they come to us, whichever they're comfortable with, to come and arrange the funeral. So they come in, they tell us exactly what they want. We tell them what we can offer and what they haven't thought about. We tell them our whole spectrum of offerings, and they just pick and choose whichever they want to make use of, whichever services they want to make use of. And then they go away, we let them grieve, and we handle everything from point A to point B. So we are one-stop shop. So we try to do everything that we can do to allow the family to grieve basically in their time of grief and not worry about the stresses of planning a funeral or planning a memorial service. Yeah, we do that end to end. So the body would come to, we would collect the body, put it in the mortuary, the family would come, and then on our end in the mortuary, the guys will be prepping the body, doing the washing. The family will also bring in the clothes that they would like the loved one to wear. Sometimes the family wants to do the washing and the dressing, so we'll just do like a thorough wash, and they just come and do sort of a light wash, and then they dress the body. Then we do the coffining, simply because with African families mostly, the body is taken on the day before the funeral. So everything happens on, say, the Friday, and the funeral's on the Saturday. So after we wash the body, the family will come, they wash and dress the body, we coffin the body, and then we transport the body back to the deceased home or wherever they'll be conducting the funeral. And then we will come back in the morning, where we also doing the actual funeral now. So we take the deceased from the home, where the night vigil was, to the church or wherever they're gonna go to host the actual funeral, and then we take them to their final place of rest, which is the graveyard. I'm Siyanda Sibiya, I'm a mortician, and this is Briefly Asks.